We have to go back maybe 20 years. The problem is often, that the whole idea before, that somebody would supply you with capital when you need it, that's pretty much gone.
What do you think about the recent inventions after the OpenAI, and where do you see things going forward from here?
If you have redundancies in a company, you can also work with secondment. So you could place one of your coders in another company. You can charge a fee for that, and you can have an additional revenue stream from those people that you might not need at the moment.
How you were able to develop your team and what you were looking for when you were developing a team for the Apollonian.
AI is that technology solution that could bridge it. So what this means that with AI, you could essentially automate the whole business due diligence and valuation process when you assess a company.
Hello everyone, how are you today? Today we have another Techstar, and he has been doing a lot of good stuff in finance and generating business models. We are going to talk to him. How are you today?
I'm fine. Everything is a bit cold in Stockholm, but it's excellent.
Right. Okay, Andreas, it will be good if you can give your introduction so that our audience can connect with you, and give us a brief summary of your career as well.
So my name is Andreas. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Apollonian Group. Apollonian Group is actually, we have two different parts. So one part is that we do valuations due diligence for companies across 28 markets. In addition to this, we also have a blended financing advisory that acts as an investment bank, where we help companies to secure grants, debt, and equity. And this is mainly focused in Western Europe, but we do some also in the US. My background is a little bit different. I actually was working for many years at the European Commission, where I was working for the Department for Research and Innovation. But I was working a lot within the remit of the Capital Markets Union. So I was working with the financial part of the research and technology industry across Europe. When we founded Apollonian, it was me and a former colleague from the European Commission, and then we had two people coming from the international banks in Europe that set up the company. And this was back in 2017.
Right. Okay, if we talk about Apollonian a little bit more. So what are the key services which you are providing to your customers? And we are going to go into more details about that as well, right? But for now, just tell us what kind of services you are providing and what are the challenges most companies are facing right now.
So what we saw basically that when it comes to transactions, when it comes to growth companies, startups, scale-ups, and so on, you can divide all the transaction services into three different levels. So of course, from an investor perspective, you need the background checks. You need to know who you actually do business with. But then you have also the services that are more relevant to the company itself, and that's the business due diligence and valuation of the company. The third level that we also focus on is the legal due diligence, where we have a partnership with a multinational law firm. It's a tech due diligence that is also highly relevant, especially for deep tech companies and for more sophisticated companies. We also have the market assessments, where we go in depth into markets and can make market reports and so on. The whole idea, basically, what Apollonian did is to take the most relevant approaches and methods how to assess a company, put it into a SaaS platform that would make it cheaper and more effective to actually conduct a thorough assessment of every company. What we call this, especially our business due diligence, we call it an holistic assessment, because we look from multiple perspectives on each individual company. So in essence, what you can do, it's very similar to the kinds of assessments that you do if you have a larger transaction, but we can do it also for smaller transactions because we use a lot of technology. Uh, the services in itself is, we are often involved, as say, in transactions. It could be either, a funding round, but it could also be an M&A situation. It could also be an exit, but it could also be, for instance, the board or the management would like to take stock of where the company is and where it's heading. And that's when we become relevant. So that's the core of Apollonian, where we started. Attached to this, for these companies, we can also provide blended financing advisory. And there we come in and take a holistic responsibility of the funding of the company. So we don't just look at the equity funding, and try to identify investors that are relevant for the company. We can also help the company to match that with debt. So it could be from credit funds, or it could be from banks. It could be also from private investors. In addition to this, we also look at the grants. We always say, that a company should try to exhaust all opportunities for soft funding that is out there, whether that is grants or debt, but also client funding, strategic funding, that you can do through joint development and so on. Public procurement is also an important aspect, especially in Europe. There's a lot of public procurement that are devoted to innovation, so you could also use that to fund your development going forward. So this is also what we try to help the companies with.
Right.
So that's in short.
They are quite a lot of services, and they can't be explained in short words.
No, that's
So,
true.
yeah, so let's talk about the services of providing different kind of financing to the companies. So in that, because every company needs different kind of financing at every different stage, right? How do you
Mm.
decide which company needs to go for loans, which company needs to go for VC funding, which company needs to go for any other source of funding? How do you decide that factor?
When we do the assessment, we get all the data, all the knowledge that we need about the company in order to define the financing mix of the company. And this might be something, then we have a clear roadmap, what type of funding the company can acquire at which point in time. So it's basically a puzzle that you do. So you start equity. You can't rule out equity. Equity is often something that you need, but you have to minimize the amount of equity that you take in. Practically, how we do it, we when we've done the assessment of the company, we start different funding tracks. So, for instance, a grant funding track, and then we look at all the calls that are published from different agencies across Europe, both national and European, and then we try to identify relevant calls for the company. And then it's not a matter of doing one call or one grant application. It's about having a series and having a function doing that. Same thing also with when it comes to debt. We can determine already from the beginning if the company is bankable or not, and what is required for the company to become bankable. When it comes to equity, we work a lot with investors who have big networks of investors that we try to see if there's a good fit between the company and a particular investor. And in that sense, you could find should always focus first of all on strategic investors. Secondly, you go after the financial investors. The strategic investors can be much more beneficial to the company. But this is all about, the mapping exercise. It's about, seeing financing of the company as a function and not as a one-off activity of the company.
No.
So that's basically the key here.
So it's an ongoing process, because you always need financing, right? And you have to keep this thing active. It's not a kind of thing that you are actively looking for 6 months and then the other 6 months you are not looking, right?
Exactly. And that's the problem often for companies, that they devote 6 months to a funding round, and then they don't look at funding at all
Yeah,
for 2 years, and then they
yeah.
devote 6 months again.
And
And
then they find themselves in a much difficult position than earlier, because
Yeah, yeah,
now
exactly.
now they have not arranged it earlier, because you have to arrange the financing before you go into that pool, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the problem is now that we see, I mean, the market situation now is terrible. I mean, especially in Nordics, it's we haven't seen well, we have to go back maybe 20 years. And the problem is often, that the whole idea before, that somebody would supply you with capital when you need it, that's pretty much gone. It's you now it's you have to be more creative. You have to have a more corporate approach towards financing of the company than you had
Right.
to.
Right. And I think right now, considering the market situation, people are holding their money. They are on a hold position and they are waiting so that they can see where the market settle itself, and then they
Mm.
start investing or doing anything that can turn into something big. I think that is what is happening right now. Am I correct in my observation?
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is that we have record levels of dry powder in the world. I mean, there are enough capital to more than enough capital, especially in the bigger VC markets and so on. Now we are in a period, where they don't commit money because they don't know where the economy is headed. And also because of that, you have so many opportunities now for any investor. The investors that are willing to commit money, they can find excellent opportunities just around the corner. So they don't really have to look that hard as they had to do, let's say, in 2019.
That makes sense. So, because you're with us, so we'll take benefit of that. And do tell us the importance of multiple revenue streams as well in a company. So, do explain that as well.
Yeah, so I mean, if we go back before, there is all this talk when you go to conferences, when you read the newspapers, everybody's talking about, that you have to devote 100% to one revenue stream. You have to focus on that, all your resources, and that strategy is of course excellent.
I am telling you that I am one of those folks who says you need to focus. So I am of that thought that you need to focus. Please go ahead.
Yeah, the challenge is, that statistically, there's only a small percentage of startups that will get VC funding, uh, and it's a small window for you actually to have that you have to do a lot in order, to scale in that way. You have to find product market fit in just a matter of maybe 1 or 2 years, which is extremely impossible, especially if you're highly innovative. Uh, at the same time, also that you see that when it's only a few percent, it's a lottery, a statistical lottery if you actually will get funded or not if you have that strategy, and and it's a binary game. So either you succeed and you make it big, or otherwise you lose everything. You might have gained some knowledge and experience at the same time, but financially you have lost everything. So what we say, for most of the companies out there, it's important that you try to already from the beginning try to see how can you monetize. How can we set up different revenue streams? I could give you an example of, for instance, if you're a SaaS company doing lead generation software, it might take a while before you find a product market fit that makes you stand out for the
Let
crowd.
me give you a case. Let me give you a case. So let's
Yeah,
say let's discuss our company. We are a
yeah.
software development company. So how we can build multiple revenue streams. So this discussion should benefit me at least.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're a software development company, I mean, this is we had quite a few of those as clients. So first of all, there are doing contract development. That's something, of course, that is quite easy. But then what you could also do, participate with other companies to develop software, and there you could also, for instance, accept sweat equity. You could, and that could enable you, to it might be a very little effort from your side, but highly valuable for another company with the skill set that you have and the knowledge and experience. So with minimal work, might actually get equity in a company that is already quite profitable, or that is or about to become very profitable. and that could enable you to do it to generate extra revenues coming from a completely different line of business than you yourself. In addition to this, one thing that is for you also, that if you have redundancies in a company, you can also work with secondment. So you could place one of your coders in another company. You can charge a fee for that, and you can have an additional revenue stream from those people that you might not need at the moment. And then you can do secondments for 3 months and so on. In addition to this, you also have participating in consortias, being a subcontractor for larger IT development consortias. That's you can also be an implementation partner for a larger company in your region. So there's so many things, that you could attract, so many revenue streams. And I'm not saying, that if you find a product market fit, you then you have to really focus, and you have to 100% focus on that, on the product. Then the problem then you might have, that you have then a lot of other revenue streams, a lot of other business lines that will take up your attention. But we often recommend that you spin out those parts, and then worst case scenario, you have a successful consultancy, you have a successful venture partner, and you have a successful company providing human resources to other companies. So this is about building a viable organization that is not only reliable on one single product.
Right. I'm so happy that we are doing all of them. We are providing staff augmentation, we are providing B2B services, we are accepting the uh, equity funds as well. We are providing resources to the other companies as well. So happy to hear that we are already doing that.
And I think your vertical is more mature when it comes to this than others, and because it comes from a different angle. It comes more from the
Yeah,
consultants world rather than coming from the product world.
yeah, I
So
agree with that.
that makes it. I think it's easier for to do
Yeah,
it. Might be difficult if you're a
yeah,
life science company.
yeah, of course. Okay, let's go back to the Apollonian, right? And we need to talk about how you were able to develop your team and what you were looking for when you were developing a team for the Apollonian.
Hmm. Well, so we started out with a very small skeleton team, and then in the beginning we didn't have any money, like everyone. So we started out with having trainees and so on, and we had we tried a lot of things, both to do ads to try to get people in. We tried referrals and so on. We started to engage juniors that were, they had maybe directly out of university, otherwise they were in at university, or they had been working for a couple of years. And then we slowly, as we see that there is a good fit for us, and we work well together, we promote them. And so we have sort of a management consulting approach towards recruitment. We tried, to get very senior people in, but the problem is that those senior people, it's always a big bet for a small company to pay the salaries that they demand. So it's a safer way, to try to have like a funnel that you get many people in, juniors, and then you promote the people, that you see that can take ownership and are on a management track, so to say. And this is something, that have worked quite well for us. We have also been we have never been particularly for us, where they are located is not important. We are 100% open to, if people want to work from home or they want to work from some other place.
Right.
That's fine for us.
That
The most
is
important.
opening of that is the opening of our partnership. If you are working on that model, that means we can partner as well.
Yeah, yeah. So for us, for instance, we have in 8 countries presence. We have our developers in Germany. We have our back office team in Finland and in Luxembourg. We have people, working, and they are also, let's say, in Sweden and in Finland, and we are scattered around the whole country. And the problem is, of course, there are challenges to this also. It doesn't fit everyone. For a lot of people, this having, yeah, at the water cooler, the discussion, the coffee in the morning together, that might be very important. And for us, that we can't provide that. So that's, of course, the downside of it. But the upside of it, that we can attract talent from pretty much all across the world. And if our staff would like to go to the US and work there for a couple of years, it's fine. It's a different. You have to look for different personality traits than you would do otherwise in order to make for this to work.
Right, right. So that pretty much explains the pros and cons of remote work as well. That
Mm.
you have less community building type things, less social life, but you can attract more talented people, more related people to you, to your product or to your company.
And the remuneration package that you provide also needs to be different from if everybody works in the same office. So it has to be more based upon delivery rather than normal, just normal salary and so on. So it's I wouldn't say that it's success based, but it's you need to have these incentives to motivate people actually to work also without having a boss looking over the shoulder every day.
Right, right. That's a good approach, and I was expecting the same thing. The kind of company you were building, I was pretty much sure that you are going to be in that approach. Let's talk about AI and generative AI as well, because your product has a lot of AI involved, right?
Mm.
So, what do you think about the recent inventions after the OpenAI, and where do you see things going forward from here?
But from our perspective, that I think this opens up a completely new industry. We have always been involved in actually trying to make very in-depth assessments of companies and valuations, and there, the more data you have, the better. You could do more assessments, more from different perspectives. The problem has always been, that before, even though you automate the mathematics, econometrics behind it, you automate as much as possible. The problem has always been the observations. The observations, the experience of the analysts, when they read a cash flow table or they look at the IP in the company, how you interpret that. AI is that technology solution that could bridge that. So what this means that with AI, you could essentially automate the whole business due diligence and valuation process when you assess a company. And that is a game changer, I would say, in the world. I would like to say, if you look at the biggest scandals that we had the last couple of years when it comes to financing, and if you look at why many investors now are trapped in companies or in portfolios, that it probably means that it's the last portfolio that they will ever manage. The one of the big reasons there is that the lack of proper due diligence on the investments, and that's something, that if you have an automated approach that is accessible to everyone, even smaller investors, that will certainly be a game changer, and that will improve allocation of capital in the market. So that's our bet basically now, that we will be a part of that transition to a more data-driven investment economy.
Right, right. And how you are looking the role of AI in your product in the coming years, that is it going to affect your workforce, or is it going to enhance your workforce in the future?
Yeah,
Specifically, development I'm talking about.
yeah. So, of course, I mean, in for us, we will probably transition into a company that is selling technology plus assurance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that means, that for us, it means that we have about 300 clients today, but with AI, we could there is no limit to how many companies we could assess at any given time if we
Right.
can fully implement AI and profit from that.
Mm.
So that's it's a big game changer for us, and what it means for the developers, it will be more focus on tech development. It will be more focus on maintenance and of the AI engine, adding more data sources and so on, rather than today where we have, I would say, a lot of we have 20-25% is on tech development, 80%, 75-80% is on the assessment part, the analysts and so on.
Right, right, right. And in the last section, where do you see Apollonian in the next 5 years?
So if we're successful with our strategy, I hope that we can continue to support, of course, individual companies, but
Right.
also to take on larger institutional players. We hope that we could pivot against the banks, against larger multifamily offices, against insurance companies, and also governments. As especially in Europe, for instance, where 40% of the VC money is actually public, there's a lot of need, for due diligence in the public sector when you award these grants and you award this VC funding. So we see that's the sweet spot for us going forward. Of course, that will take a few years before I think we're fully ready to cope with that, because we talk about massive amount of companies every year.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And in the end, I would like you to give some advice to the aspiring entrepreneurs who watch our episodes, and do tell them what they need to do in order to make a successful business.
I think already from the beginning, it's important to have a view on how you can earn money and when you can be cash flow positive.
Yeah.
And try to in one way or another reach that as soon as possible. We are not back in 2019 where money was cheap, when you could get investors quite easily. Now it's extremely difficult. That's the first step. Then also use as much soft funding as possible if it's available in your country, to basically bridge that gap that you have between profitability and equity investment. Then secondly, you have to cultivate your networks. And this is what we see with a lot of companies, that they have extremely good technology, but they are not really good at networking. And if you're, for most businesses out there, even if you're a software business, cultivating your networks is absolutely crucial to succeeding and to getting your product, to the market and finding that product market fit. And also always think outside the box when it comes to partnerships. Cooperate with universities in one way or another. You can cooperate with the government. You can cooperate with incubators. You can participate in them. You can also be a service supplier to them. You have to go broad in the beginning until you find that product market fit. Because in the end, you will notice, when you find it, because it's when you start seeing, the traction. And then you can start to focus, and that might take a while. And don't give up. That's the most important thing.
Right, Andreas. That was an amazing lesson, especially be cash flow first one and the last one. Be cash flow positive and don't give up. Right.
Yeah.
Rest of the things you will manage with the time, but these are the two important things. Thank you, Andreas, for being with us. And that was an insightful conversation. And I wish you good luck for the Apollonian. And thank you so much for watching our episode. Keep watching. Do subscribe us so that we can keep bringing more tech stars to your screens. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much.